Hello, everyone. This is Coach Tim Campbell, and I'm excited to have a fellow business owner with us today. Something unique about my guest is that he doesn't feel like he accomplished anything if he doesn't get something done every single day. And in his downtime, he likes to garden, which I'm going to have him tell us a little bit more about that. But even more exciting is he's most proud of 22 Emmy nominations and 6 Emmy Awards. It's my pleasure to welcome Lou to the show today. Hi, Lou.
Hi, Tim. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, let's start by having you introduce yourself. So tell us your full name and a little bit of your personal story, like where you were born and live and about your family.
Okay. My full name is Lou Pierce. I was actually born in Ohio, but my family moved here when I was very young. Um, Father Ted Hesburgh hired my father to be on the faculty at Notre Dame, which is where I went to school, and basically lived in the city of South Bend ever since. Today, my wife and I live in Mishawaka, which is the sister city.
Hmm.
A lot of people know that. Um, and that's where our business is located in Mishawaka. So,
Very cool. And so tell us about the Emmy Awards.
oh wow, we've been very fortunate. Um, our Emmys are for different films that we've done, and kind of the qualification for an Emmy is that it has to be the film you do, it has to be broadcast. So among the many films we've done are films for the University of Notre Dame, including the biography of Father Hesburgh himself, that was shown at his funeral
Mm,
several years ago. Gosh, we've done so many. One of the ones that we're really proud of is the Illinois State Police. We did a film for the Illinois State Police that they used to raise funds to build a memorial
oh, wow.
down in Springfield, for their fallen officers.
Hmm.
Ironically, one of the reasons a lot of these officers have died over the years is because they pull someone over for a traffic stop and they get hit by another car who just doesn't slow down and move over.
Yeah. Oh,
And it's kind of an awful thing. What we did was we talked to a lot of the survivors, the wives and in some cases husbands, of these survivors. And it was just a really compelling request, really, that people slow down
yeah. Yeah.
and move over. Um, and it got nominated for an Emmy and finally did actually win an Emmy. And so we're proud of that one too. And a whole bunch of other ones.
Yeah.
I traveled to Afghanistan during the war in 2011, and we did a film kind of documenting. It was part of a government task force trip,
Okay.
documenting kind of a different way of looking at economic development in a country like Afghanistan, which is mostly rural.
Mm,
Um, and really, the old way of doing economic development was, this is just an example. Americans would say, we'll build a Ford truck factory here. Well, that doesn't really work. First of all, they don't have the natural resources that they need to do that
right.
kind of thing. So what this task force was studying is um, how, for example, widows from the first Afghanistan war with the Soviet Union um, could run canning factories in rural Afghanistan. So we traveled all over the country looking at some of these canning factories, which were made of mud
Wow.
and sticks, and
Yeah.
they featured things like solar panels for their refrigeration and other equipment. And it was really working out well. Now everything's changed since then.
Mm,
Taliban's kind it At the time, Afghanistan was doing pretty well. Women were entering the workforce.
right.
They were being elected into government positions. It's all kind of changed now.
Hmm.
Taliban's kind of, they don't really care for women
Yeah.
or women's rights. And so it's kind of gone back in time in
Mm.
that regard. And it's too bad. But little girls were going to school for the first time when
Wow.
we were
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So it was a really interesting trip.
Sure. Yeah. So Lou, what's a funny story that your family likes to tell about you that you'd be willing to share with us today?
Well, one of my, I'll call it a habit, is I like to adopt um, individuals who are really interesting. Um, and so, especially the staff here, um, takes me to task about this. But anybody who's interesting, and sometimes people are dismissive of some of the most interesting people. If they if they tell tall tales, I really prefer to believe what they're saying.
Uh-huh.
It's just a lot more fun for me personally, you know. And they, our staff is aghast at it. My wife in particular, my wife and I work together,
Uh-huh.
so I have a boss 24 hours a day. I think you probably know what that's like.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, so I find some of the people who are kind of other people avoid
Hmm.
are more interesting to me,
Okay.
and probably because for the very reasons that other people avoid them, I'm kind of attracted to them. So they make fun of me for that. They'll say I adopt anybody who walks in the door here. I'm
That's
kind of proud
awesome.
of that, actually.
I love it.
Yeah.
So your gardening, is it vegetable or flowers or both?
Well, it's a little bit of both. I actually grow corn in our backyard.
Okay.
Not a lot of corn. I did it once before, and I waited too long to harvest the corn.
Okay.
Um, and it wasn't very good once I did. So this year I'm growing it again, and I'm going to make sure I harvest it at the right time. But also flowers. I kind of believe in the impact of like one mass planting, one solid color.
Okay.
Um, and my wife, who appreciates it, hates to garden, but
Yeah.
she likes the results. So
Yes. Yeah. I have
yeah,
a vegetable garden and same thing.
really,
My
yeah,
wife
yeah,
enjoys the fruits of
yeah.
it, but doesn't want any other part of it. So we do tomatoes and a variety of different peppers and squash and
Oh,
some
good for you. Yeah,
cucumbers. Yeah. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I uh, I was working on I was in Collegeville, I think it was Minnesota at one point, and I got to ride along. This was 20 some years ago. Got to ride along in a combine with one of the farmers there, and I
Okay.
kind of fell in love with it because it was really incredibly peaceful.
Mm,
And I think I just got hooked, and
yeah.
that's kind of what started it for me. So,
Very cool. Well, hey, tell us how did the business come about and at what point did you have the confidence that you could run your own business?
well, first, let me just tell you, I don't think anyone ever has confidence that, and I can't be alone. I
Yes.
honestly, I, so when I was in college, I started working at the television and radio stations that the university owned, and I just kind of fell in love with that.
Mm,
And um, my degree's in economics, but uh, I really liked working in television and radio. And but then, as I spent 25 years doing that, worked my way up and was programming the stations, doing all of the marketing,
yeah.
public service, all of it. But once the deregulation of the industry began, I kind of saw the writing on the wall, and then combine that with the internet sort
Mm,
of displacing broadcast. And I decided it was kind of a good time to get out of that and start my own company. So I kind of do what I've always done.
uh-huh.
I just today do it for other people. Um, and I don't have a transmitter, although we do have the internet now, which is basically the same thing. So I
Yeah.
feel like I'm still doing what I always and and I love it.
That's awesome. Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about the company. What's the name? What do you guys do? How do you help people?
So the genesis of our name, Big Idea Company, is that I would sit when I was in broadcast, I would sit for hours in meetings and felt like I could never get anything done because all I
Mm,
was doing was taking notes and
uh,
sharing them with other people. And and I also witnessed this sort of this phenomenon of meetings where really anything that feels unsafe is kind of get shot down by the
right.
committee in the
Yeah.
meeting. And I started to realize that it's those things that feel unsafe that really can pay off in big ways.
Mm.
And I was kind of tired of being exposed to that, let's not do anything that feels unsafe mentality. And so it was actually a good learning lesson for me. And so we really encourage our clients to feel unsafe. And I have this saying that if it feels unsafe in your meeting, that you really should consider it,
Mm.
because it's the only thing that's really going to pay off for you in a big
Right.
way,
Yeah.
in a meaningful way, and change your trajectory.
Yeah.
Um, so, and my staff knows that, and I think they all feel the same way.
Yeah. That's cool. I like it. So, we know that business success doesn't happen in isolation, Lou. So tell us what's one of your biggest challenges that you've had over the years and someone who, maybe came alongside you and helped you through it.
Well, I have to tell you, when you start a business, if you're like me, um, when I started, and we've grown a lot, um, you you typically start. You don't have an accounting system for one thing. You
Mm,
do everything by hand and on paper, and that's
yeah.
how we started. Now, today it's completely different. We track all of our time. We might discount services for one of the not-for-profits we represent, or someone we like who's been good to us. Um, but it's really changed. But that's kind of one of the the other thing is, I think anybody who starts a business doesn't realize that it's kind of it's a full-time job.
Mm.
You don't get days off.
Yeah.
Um, not if you're going to be good at it, not if you're going to be around for a while. And it's kind of like having a tiger by the tail. It's endless. I always say fun. We really, our whole staff enjoys what we do.
Yeah.
And we feel fulfilled. I think there's not a single person who goes home at the end of the day here who doesn't feel fulfilled in
Yeah.
some way.
That's great. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
which
you
is
mentioned you mentioned it being a full-time job. I've had people explain it to me that, well, what I thought I was doing, which is, the thing that I like, that's a 40-hour job. And then running the business I'm doing on the evenings and weekends.
absolutely, that's exactly what it's like. And you really have to be open to it. And the other thing you have to do, I feel, and our staff knows this, is that you always have to be learning, particularly in our business where everything's changing,
Sure.
practically by the day.
Yeah.
So, um, what we're adopting today as a way of working is not going to be the same in 5 years. And I think everybody here knows it. And I think it's that way in any industry,
Yeah.
so,
Lou, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here and
okay.
ask you to pick three people in your business journey that you're most grateful for them being part of your business's growth. So who are those three people and how they help you?
Well, I would say, when I was in broadcast, um, I worked for a general manager by the name of Basil T. O'Hagan. And he, like my father, was hired by the university who owned the broadcast entities we worked for. And he was just such a gentleman. And I just remember when I started the business, he had been retired for several years at that point. And he called me and encouraged me
Aw,
to, in lots of different ways, um, gave me good advice,
yeah.
and was just a really good person. Another gentleman who was instrumental in kind of helping form who I am today is a gentleman by the name of Dick Nemeth,
Mhm.
who was also in broadcasting and just a really good friend of mine. In fact, he ended up being my best man at my wedding.
Oh yeah.
And then there's a gentleman by the name of Ben Zilkowski who built one of the best construction companies in the American Midwest. And he was always uplifting with me and encouraging me. I didn't always do what he recommended. Um, Lynn and I are very conservative financially, and he had recommended we take out a loan to fund
Okay,
our business. We just didn't feel comfortable doing that, and
sure.
he knows that. He's just such a really good person, but he
Yeah.
is very encouraging, very helpful, and a really a really good person. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I did the same thing. I sort of bootstrapped my business, and it's the one thing that looking back, I'm like, man, I wish I had done that differently because you get an SBA loan at a very reasonable interest rate,
you know,
and I could have paid myself and hired some people in the beginning, right? And just accelerated the curve. But yeah, I definitely can appreciate the not wanting to get the loan. Yeah.
yeah, there was another gentleman who was an accountant, but he wasn't a typical accountant. He had this creative side, and he had encouraged me also to take out a loan and that we could get a lot of money because we had a good reputation. But I, it probably disappointed him a little bit that we just didn't want to do that. And we've been fine, even through the ups and downs of, geez, multiple recessions.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've been just fine. In fact, during the last recession, which I think was 2007, 8, and 9, we continued to hire people. So
That's
we've
great.
been
Yeah.
we've been really lucky, you know. We don't
Lou,
take it for granted.
Lou, what's your biggest learning as a business owner?
My biggest what?
Your biggest learning?
Oh, gosh. Well, first of all, you just can't ever stop learning.
Mm.
If you do, you die. And
Yeah.
and our staff knows that. So I think I told you earlier when we did a kind of a pre-interview that one of the things I didn't realize, but I think a lot of business owners go through this, that you should have, gosh, what kind of insurance is it? Workers' compensation insurance.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So we had someone who got hurt just walking up a staircase, and we took care of all their healthcare bills. But we got our insurance right away after that. So, but
Yeah.
I don't think we're unusual in that sense. If you're just starting a business,
Yeah.
um, a
There's
lot of
so
people,
much. Yeah, there's so
oh
much to
gosh,
learn.
and
Yeah.
it's absolutely endless.
Yeah.
Um,
I often refer to it as, the profession of business ownership, right? Meaning, right,
yeah,
there's a whole number of things, education that's required to be a great business owner that's separate
yeah,
from being a great technician, right? Or, a doer of
exactly,
the business. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
We don't take anything for granted. This is our entire staff. I have to tell you, we have ways of figuring this out. But we make sure we hire people who don't take life for granted, and they really want to help
Mm,
other people
yeah.
in the way that we do things here. And it's paid off. We're good to them. They're good to us. Um, so we can go on vacation knowing that they're going to take care of
That's great.
everything that they have to
Yeah.
when we're not here, and we don't have to worry about
Now,
anything.
having
So
that, I would call that cultural alignment. So hiring people that have the same values and beliefs,
yeah.
it makes a huge difference. We've all had
Oh,
experiences where
yeah.
someone's been hired that doesn't fit, right? And how
Yeah,
painful that is.
yeah. And you get that once in a while. We've had mistakes.
Sure.
But that's just part of being in business. It's going to happen no matter what. How you deal with it
Yeah.
says everything about you. And we've always felt like we deal with even our mistakes in decent human ways that make friends for us even down the road. So I still hear from people whom, for whatever reason, we have had to let go. Um, and we're still friends. And I think part of it is how we treat everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. You mentioned the learning or dying. I love that because if we're not continuing to improve ourselves and raise the bar, our competition is, and so that's where the
Yeah,
dying comes in, right? And we're going to get beat if we're not staying on top
yeah.
of things. Yeah.
I call it learn or die.
Yeah.
And, when I was in broadcast, I would witness it. I would see um, companies that had been around for decades just
Mhm.
close their doors just all
Yeah.
of a sudden.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and there were different reasons for it, but I would say mostly they just didn't bother to keep learning,
Yep.
and they were stuck in a paradigm from 20 or 30 years prior.
Yep.
And
I think that
you
the
know,
Kodak company comes to mind, right?
oh
Of
yeah, that. That's a great example. Or even Sears.
Yeah.
I used to give talks about Sears. You could see even in the early 80s that inevitably they were going to have to close.
Mm,
And sure enough, as of today, they don't exist anymore.
yeah.
But part of it was they forgot who they were.
Mm,
At one time they had invented the Internet of the Day with their catalog.
right.
Can you imagine shipping a home to be put together on a train? And
Yeah.
we have some in South Bend. Um, but they were the Internet of the Day with their catalog.
I
And
remember when I was a kid.
oh yeah, me too. But they forgot who they were. And today, Home Depot, Lowe's, Menards, these companies who didn't waver on who they were or what they were all about, even while Sears was still operating, those companies dwarfed Sears in
Right.
sales every year.
Yeah.
And it's because they weren't willing to abandon who they were or what they were.
Right. Makes sense.
So I talk about that a lot because that's, sowing the seeds of your own destruction, in my opinion, is abandoning who you are.
Yeah.
And we won't ever do it.
Yeah. It's one thing that with our clients that we make sure that they've got clarity on their vision and mission and culture statements
Yeah,
because to your point, it's so foundational and fundamental to everything else.
it really is. Yeah.
So what piece of advice or guidance, Lou, would you have for business owners who are feeling stuck or discouraged in their business?
Well, first of all, I just want to tell you that it happens to every business owner,
Mm,
feeling stuck, feeling kind of down. I can tell you what we have always done, and we will always talk to some of the clients whom we've helped along the way.
mm,
And in most cases, business owners don't realize how much they're appreciated by the people
mm.
whom they've helped.
Yeah.
And that, for us, it's because we end up working for governments, um, universities, NGOs, a lot of not-for-profits. It's really fulfilling to hear how much you mean. And that's kind of my advice. If you're
Yeah.
feeling down, call somebody
Hmm.
who you've helped along the way. They're going to
Love
perk you
that.
up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Uh, mm. So it's always worked for us. We don't encounter discouragement a lot, but we're kind of just positive people.
Mm.
So I don't know if it's a Midwestern thing or what, but maybe we're naive. Um,
Well, I like what you said about like it just happens, right? Like there's
yeah,
right things will
yeah,
come out of seemingly come out of nowhere that just,
yeah,
punches us in the stomach or knocks the wind out of us, right? And
yeah. It's true.
it's just a matter of how do we respond and react to that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. 'Cause it's going to happen. No matter what, you're going to encounter those times.
Yeah.
And I've just told you what we do, and it's really fulfilling.
Yeah, and it's even if you're not able to talk to those people, presume, if we've done a good job and we've gotten Google reviews or
Yeah,
testimonials, right? We can review those and go, oh wow, yeah,
yeah,
that's a good reminder. We are making a difference.
yeah.
We are having an impact, right?
So how do you handle that, Tim?
I actually have a mindset coach. So,
Oh,
so I've been equipped with, right, some just tools and thinking processes. So the whole concept is, right, we're going to have thoughts and doubts and fears and self-limiting
yeah,
beliefs, and right, and our thoughts come from a feeling, but the feeling comes from a thought, but the thought doesn't necessarily it's not necessarily true, right? The feeling is true
yeah,
because it's a feeling, but the
right.
thought is typically coming from some fear or worry or doubt. So, so
Yeah,
being able to isolate that and go, all right, so what am I thinking and why am I thinking that way? And then is that really going to happen? Right.
exactly.
And what can I do about it? What can I do differently? And I didn't just and pull myself back out of that feeling uh, I'm not in control to back to, oh, there's some things I can actually do to influence this.
Yeah. Well, good for you because yeah. I mean, that works. So
And the law of attraction, right, is real. It's so powerful. What we think, feel, and believe is
yeah,
what's going to end up manifesting itself. So
yeah,
having control of our thoughts is crucial in terms of manifesting positive things versus manifesting negative things.
you're a good man, Tim.
Yeah. So, Lou, in the next 1 to 2 years, where's, or as you think about the next 1 to 2 years, where's an area that you're currently feeling stuck or that you need to sort out in order to achieve your long-term goals?
Gosh, that's a tough one. I put some thought to it. We we really want to keep encouraging our staff to do more and more. And we work daily on empowering them. It's
Mhm.
worked out really well. Um, serving our clients really well.
Yeah.
Um, I would say, if we ever lose sight of that, we're kind of stepping back.
Mm.
And so that's the thing that we're always focused on is just doing a good job, empowering each other,
Uh-huh.
um, and just making sure that the cultural fit, this idea that we need to provide a really good value for our clients
Mm.
is something that everyone's on board with. And um, you know, we're really happy that everyone here is on board with that. We treat our staff really well. Just to give you an example, during COVID, we love having kids here, but during COVID, when schools were closed, and I may have told you this, so forgive me, but we had children here from all of our young moms. We set up desks and computers for them
Aw.
so they could go to school online,
Yeah.
which is kind of what was happening at the time.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, that was enlightening for us because, Melinda and I went to school a long time ago, and I can tell you, and I don't know if you felt this way, Tim, but we were literally afraid of our principals. We were seeing was principals today. We were seeing this almost every day. We had one of our young girls here who was in school. The principal, they all have internal television now. He would get on this internal television system and play his guitar and sing a song to the kids every day. And I couldn't even imagine that.
Right?
It was so different and enlightening and good. It was really good to see that kind of those artificial barriers. Our
Mm,
principals wore suits and ties, and
right.
we really were afraid of them.
Yeah.
So it was a really nice thing to see. And I have to say, I think it's really good for the learning process too. So plus we just love having kids here. We have one of our staff has their little boy here today.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we're really flexible with our staff. That's another thing that we feel strongly about. If they have dental appointments or if their kids do and they have to leave for a little while,
Right.
we don't care. We don't care. As long as, everybody gets their work done, that's the
Yeah.
only thing we care about.
Sure.
And we're not taskmasters. Well, my wife is with me, but I just, we were determined to have a really nice work environment here, and it's paid off for us.
Yeah,
And
that's
so we
fantastic.
have really loyal, hardworking, dedicated staff members who appreciate, what they do every day. So.
I love it. So last question, Lou. Jim Rohn says that we become the average of the five people that we spend the most time with. So as you think about that quote, what advice do you have for business owners who are feeling overwhelmed and trying to figure it out on their own?
Well, first I just say you're going to feel overwhelmed because it does happen, and there's seemingly no let up. What I would say is just take some time to yourself.
Mm,
I'm not willing to say meditate. I'm not much of a meditator, but be reflective
mm,
and remember the value of what you do every day and the people around you. My wife is probably the best balance that that I can have. A, she's pretty. B, she's smarter than me. And she's quite a taskmaster. So yeah, that's my advice. Just, absorb what you can of the people around you. And it's never a bad thing.
Yeah.
So
I like what you're saying about reflection and you're right, it doesn't have to be meditation, right? Some people,
right.
some of our clients exercise or they go for a
Yeah,
walk or they read a book or they listen to music. It's just different ways to get
yes.
out
Yeah.
of the business for a minute and just relax and
Yeah.
calm the brain
Almost,
down a little bit.
yeah. Almost anything works. It's usually a personal
Yeah.
preference. Melinda, my wife, reads a lot.
Okay.
She's constantly reading. Um, I think that's one of the things she does. Gardening for me,
Mhm.
you know, um, and just, I like to work. I think it's really helpful if you like to work.
Yes.
And I have this, I talk about this a lot. God put us on earth to work.
Mm, yeah.
And you're going to feel fulfilled if you work. And I'm not saying be crazy about it,
Yeah.
uh, but it is why we're here.
Yeah.
And I just feel kind of strongly about that.
Well, and you've mentioned a couple of times balance, right? So
Yeah,
gardening, right? It's still work, but
yeah,
it's a hobby. It's not, right? It's not
exactly.
a profession. And so
Yeah,
it's a way to balance the day and the life and right, get away from work for a little bit and enjoy something
exactly.
different. Right?
And that's also fulfilling, when you see the product of your work blooming
Mhm.
and or you can pick it and eat it. And
Yes.
um,
Yes. And it tastes so much different than the stuff in the grocery store, right?
very different, very different. It's better.
It's like, oh, that's what a cucumber's supposed to taste like.
Exactly. Um,
Yeah.
so there, I mean, what else can I tell you, Tim?
Yeah. I think that is awesome, Lou. The last little bit that I have here is really just to say, it sounds like you've had some incredible people that have been part of your journey. If they were
Yeah.
all here with us today, what would you want to say to them?
Well, of course, I'd want to thank them. I mean, that kind of encouragement that people who care about what you're doing, it's it's unusual. And there aren't a lot of people like that, at least anymore in the world. And so to me, they're highly valued. And you know, Baz in particular passed away a few years ago. But he was instrumental,
Mm,
just a really good man. Ben Zolkowski is not doing so well now
mm,
either. Um, but he's been instrumental. And Dick Nemeth, who was the best man at our wedding, was instrumental. He's also passed away.
mm.
Um, so I would just thank them and I pray for them every day and their families and you know,
Yeah. Lou, I appreciate you sharing your stories today. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much.
it's been a pleasure being here. I want to thank you, Tim. I don't know how you do it. I mean, I was looking at your video on your website and before we logged on here, and you have 1,000 coaches?
Well,
Or
Action Coach is a franchise, so I'm a local
okay,
franchise owner, and
okay,
yeah, the franchise there's about 1,000 of us in
okay.
83
Wow.
countries around the world.
That's amazing. I don't know how you do it because I'm sure your week never ends, does it?
Well, similar to what you and I just talked about, it
Mhm.
has to be, intentional breaking of the day, right?
Yep.
I
Yeah.
I am done for the day, and it will be here tomorrow. And uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
we're actually going to a conference in Rio, an action coach conference in Rio. So my wife and
Wow.
I are taking 3 weeks to go and travel around South America. So that's
Wow.
our
Good for
getaway and have
you.
a break.
That's a great adventure.
Yeah, yes, we're looking forward to it.
I'm sure you'll have Rio. Wow.
So
Wow. That's amazing. So, well, congratulations and
thank
God
you.
bless you, Tim.
Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay, thank you, Tim. God bless you.
Thanks for listening to the Self-Made is a Myth show. Please help spread this movement by liking and subscribing to our show and following us on Facebook and LinkedIn. To join our movement, go to bemadtogether.com. Okay, folks, that's a wrap. Please pay it forward and be sure to tune in next time to the Self-Made is a Myth podcast.